Hey, good morning, Drive Time. Welcome back. As always, I'm Dave Drum, and I'm here to host you for another week, another topic, another speaker. And this week, we're really fortunate to have somebody who, when we talk about, the big church and the global reach of Christianity, our guest today, Frank Shelton, he is really on the front lines of that global mission. And he has been around the world. We're really fortunate to have him here. He actually speaks weekly through a television program that, according to his website, goes into about 150 million homes. So we are just extremely blessed to have him here. So Frank, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us and spending a little bit of time with us.
Oh, Dave, I'm honored to be with you, sir. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I love Florida and wherever your friends are at. And effective July 4th, I just found out we're going to be on CTN Channel 10 television in Lehigh Acres, Fort Myers, Naples, Lehigh County, every Sunday and I think Thursday night. So we're really going to be, I think it's about 1.3 million homes just right there in Southwest Florida. And I just preached last week with Paul Lodato at a Night of Hope. And we're talking about possibly bringing a 2,000 seat tent next spring to Southwest Florida. So you guys heard it here first. It would be an honor to get a lot of the folks listening on the drive to be in person. I'd love to meet all of you. So we'll just see what happens.
And that's incredible. That's incredible. So guys, we talk a lot about, whether we're on our men's groups or men's conference, or even here on Drive Time, we talk about, ways to improve, ways to grow. And we talk about, the need to sometimes get out of your own way, get out of your comfort zone. And in order to grow, there's a service component that, we're called to make disciples of all nations, including this one. So, our own neighborhoods, our own communities, our own states, our own nation. But sometimes we're also called to something greater outside our own borders. And this is something that Frank can definitely talk about. So Frank, I know years ago you had this opportunity to really change things up. Would you mind telling us about that?
Yeah, well, thank you. So I was going to do three things. And Dave, as you know, I was born on Capitol Hill. Most people run away from Washington. I was born to work here. But I literally was born almost in the hallways of the U.S. Capitol. My mother was pregnant with me and went into labor pains with me President's Day weekend. So my dad worked at the U.S. Capitol. My mom was at the U.S. Capitol. And God worked it out. I was going to go into politics, preach, or protect the president. And I know a lot of our church folks are like, well, politics and religion shouldn't mix. Well, Jesus said they should. Whatever your hand finds to do it for God's glory. Now, drinking and driving don't mix, and millions still do it on every weekend. But I just really believe we need to engage culture. We need to shine a light. We need to look like the Lord. And we are to be thermostats, not thermometers. A thermostat actually changes the temperature of the room. The thermostat just tells you what the temperature is. And when you are a Christ-honoring, God-glowing light bulb for Jesus, you're a billboard, not for Gucci, but for God, not Calvin Klein, but Christ himself. And I never understood when people said, oh, I'm not going to the White House. That's not my president. Well, gosh, if you're only hanging out folks who look like you and vote like you, I can assure you, you don't look like Jesus. Paul was all things to all men. So this is interesting. I worked in 4 White Houses of 2 different parties, but some of my best ministry moments were folks polar opposite of me. Why? Because I was a thermostat. I was trying to be Jesus. I was shining a light in the dark. I was chasing hell with a water gun. And I went to Vice President Biden's son's casket, to his son Beau Biden's funeral. I'm standing next to the Vice President's son casket, ministering to the second most powerful person in the world. And I walk outside, a news reporter said, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" And I said, "Sir, I am a Christian and I'm an American." And they said, "So why would you come today to pay you respect at the Vice President's son's funeral?" And I said, 1, God told me to come. And 2, I wanted to let him know that he wasn't all alone when the bottom fell out. And when Ronald Reagan got shot, my dad's friend was the one that pushed Ronald Reagan in the limo after he got shot. And they raced to the hospital. And Reagan is on his back and he's looking at the bright light in the emergency room, and there's 6 doctors. And the head cardiologist was actually a big time Democrat. And President Reagan was going in and out of consciousness. He saw the bright light over him. And he told Nancy later, he goes, I honestly thought I was going home to heaven. And they said that I knew the Gipper would be right when the president is actually doing a joke on the operating table. And Reagan looked up and said, I hope you're all Republicans. And to that Democrat's credit, he actually said, at this point, Mr. President, we're all Republicans. And I thought, man, what a great answer. You know, I really believe, Dave, we're so busy playing checkers that we've missed the chess table. You know, we're fighting over, is it Auburn or Alabama? Is it Kobe or LeBron? Is it the Beatles or Elvis? You know, is it Madonna or is it, you know, Whitney Houston? You know, we're so busy comparing the temporal, we're losing the game, which is the eternal. So yes, when you talk about get out of your comfort zone, here's a word for everyone. If you're not going, you're not growing. And I think we're never more like Jesus when you're giving and forgiving. So I come from a long line of police. My family has now 150 years protecting the White House and the U.S. Capitol.
Wow.
Had I stayed, I would have been 6 consecutive generations. My father was the assistant chief of the United States Capitol Police. So he was basically the number 2 top cop in all of Washington. But the U.S. Capitol Police is America's police department. And my uncle was a lieutenant in charge of all the canine. My granddaddy was a captain with DC Police. My great-great-great-grandfather was on duty, Ford's Theater, Good Friday, 1865, the night Abraham Lincoln was shot. And in 2 obituaries, David had mentioned, it was our Shelton, my ancestor Joseph Shelton, who hand carried Abraham Lincoln across the street the night he died. So having said all that, I was going to go into politics or protect the president. And after 20 years on Capitol Hill, I left by faith, July 2007, left retirement 401k health insurance. And I left without a single booking to answer the call. I went from writing speeches to a member of Congress to giving him an occasion in his absence to now giving them in churches, corporate America. And I've been a chaplain now at 3 Olympics, 2012 London, 2016 Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And we saw 1,054 people saved at the Olympics. While they went for gold, we went for God. Gold is temporal, God is eternal. And my roommate was a USA gold medalist. So I say the church has been good going after the poor, but sometimes we forgot to go after the powerful. I asked Meadowlark Lemon, the Harlem Globetrotter, one time why he flew first class, and he laughed and he said, Frank, rich people need Jesus too. So when I quit my government job by faith, I just knew God said go. The first 2/3 of God's name, David spells go. The first 2 letters of gospel spell go. The first 2 letters of good news spell go. So we have a green light by God himself to go and do something for his glory. But too many saints have been satisfied sitting on the sidelines. Christianity is not a spectator sport. I know what it's like to ride the bench early on, and you can learn what's going on, but it's more fun being in the game. And one time I scored 31 in a game, and that's not bad from a white dude from DC. Can I get an amen? But Larry Bird, since 6th grade, would shoot 500 free throws a day, every day, rain, sleet, or snow. And he would dribble to school 1.1 miles with his right hand, intentionally miss the bus, but dribble 1.1 miles back with his left hand. He became what we called ambidextrous. He could play ball with both hands. He shot 500 free throws, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And North Carolina and Indiana, they almost worship basketball as a small god. He was one of the first freshmen to make varsity in the great state of Indiana. And he's on varsity as a freshman. And when all the scouts were coming, they weren't coming to see the juniors and seniors. They were looking at this freshman. And the crazy thing is Larry Bird's career with the Boston Celtics was like 94% from the line. And he would dominate the three-point contest. But, you know, I think of football practices. The Super Bowl's revealed in the end of January, 1st of February, but they're actually won in 100-degree heat at 2- and 3-day practices, vomiting at the Gatorade table, when no one's watching. And you can't turn it on or off. You're either all in or you're all in. And, the difference between a champ and a chump is you. And, you may fool some people in private, but I'm telling you, we got to walk with integrity in public and private. I heard a tragic story years ago of a carpenter who was the best of the best. He did 35 years and he built multi-million-dollar homes. And he was getting ready to retire, and the word was on the street he was winding down. And a wealthy man implored him to stick around and build one more house. And he said, sir, I'm done. I've done my time. My knees hurt, my joints hurt, my back hurt. I got money in the bank. I just want to go. And he goes, no, I need you for a favor. Will you build me this house? And he kind of rolled his eyes, and he kind of just was there, but he wasn't there. And for the first time in his career, he started cutting corners. The craftsmanship may have looked impressive to you or I, but when you really got up close, it just wasn't anything worth what he had done in the past. And he just continued to push the envelope and just thought, well, hey, I told him I really didn't want to do this anyways. I'm done. And the irony is, when it was all over, the rich man with a big smile, they had a big party and balloons are going off and there's a cake and the whole community came out. And the rich man said, sir, you weren't really building the house for me. I wanted to give you a gift. You were building this house for you. And you can imagine the horror in his face where he thought he one-upped them and dialed it in. What he realized is he not only didn't give his best, but what was supposed to be like winning the lotto and hitting the jackpot and a huge blessing, he realized, man, I'm a loser behind closed doors. This guy was trying to bless me with the house of my dreams, and no one but me knows I didn't give my all. And I just think that may be relevant for someone today driving in the car or watching it on your phone or catching this later in the day, because I'm telling you, you cannot win when you don't honor your parents. Maybe you're saying, well, Frank, my parents have been dead for 10 years. I understand that, but there's nothing worse than hitting your head at the pillow at night, knowing you just dialed it in. You just threw it in. You didn't really give your all. And God's watching, and you have a last name for a reason. It's a brand. It's of respect. It should be of honor. And whether your parents or loved ones alive or dead, we need to please them and to try to do right by them. And you may fool a Saul, you may even fool a preacher, but man, God doesn't take his eyes off you. And it's not because he's trying to throw lightning at you. It's that he loves you so much, he'd rather die for you than live without you. So I just want to encourage you, and I'm preaching to myself, we always got to tighten every loose screw in my life. Maybe your life as well. We need to be intentional in relationships. We need to be intentional in honoring. We need to be intentional in tipping our hat to respect, intentional in our finances, because I've also learned as a speaker, until I get alone with God, I won't be much of a microphone for God in public. And a lot of people want the stage, but they don't want the stress that comes with it. So more than ever, to whom much is given, much is required. And I love Babe Ruth. In 1 year, he led the league in home runs. But what most people forgot, he led the league in strikeouts. But at least when he was up to bat, he was swinging for the fence. So you'll foul a few off and you may even strike out a few. But man, if you get a hold of it, it's gone. So I just want to encourage you, we don't do anybody a service by playing it safe or not swinging for the fence. And, we all got a platform. So I would just encourage you, even when I'm out at a restaurant, do you tip with kindness? Do you look the waiter in the eye? Do you show respect? Breaks my heart. I've been told that most waitresses don't even like to wait on Christians after church. Instead of being the most lively, kindest bunch, they said they're the rudest and sometimes the cheapest tippers. And man, what an indictment. And, we just really need to shine for God. So I've worked on Capitol Hill. I got an award at the UN. I've been around a few people, but you can't be a winner in public and be a loser in private. So I'm just trying to have my backstage match my front stage. And that's why people love Billy Graham. What you saw is what you got. And there was no surprises. There were no skeletons. It just, you know, when he walked in the room, you know, he was integrity. And so whether you're a president, prime minister, or the janitor of the local middle school, walk in integrity. And I'll leave you with this thought before we switch gears. If you have a chance, men listening to this podcast, to get a brand new Infinity or walk in integrity, I would beg you, just stick with integrity, because money without morals is a mess. You could have a high-end SUV sports car, and if it left you on the side of the road, you can still move forward because you have integrity. But cash without class is just trash. So honor God in heaven and your mom on earth, and I think you'll do all right.
And that is an awful lot of just imagery thrown at us, and it's awesome because I can see myself in so many of those, and you know, even your statement about tighten down the screws as they get loose, you know, that's exactly what we try to do each week with Drive Time. Like you and I had talked about, we try to get 1% better each week and kind of challenge you guys to, hey, focus in this area. And while I would say, you know, what you've talked about so far is, you know, it's so far reaching, and there's so many different, you know, kind of avenues we could walk down. But since this is how we like to end each week, I'm going to throw this at you and ask you if you could give us one challenge for this week, and you know, ask us to improve in one area this week, 1%. What is the tangible takeaway thing that you would challenge us with this week?
Wow, great question, Dave. Well, I hope this will resonate with you. So when my ancestor carried Abraham Lincoln, they told me he carried the closest to the king of a nation America will ever have, because the presidency is an institution, not an individual. I saw Elvis Presley in concert twice at age 5, summer of 1977. He died August 77. And my dad's roommate for 12 weeks at the FBI for 7 years was a bodyguard to Elvis Presley. The man was known by billions by his first name, loved by millions, but when he died, Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, asked my dad's dear friend and roommate at the FBI Academy to be a pallbearer at Elvis Presley's funeral. If you ever get a chance to be a pallbearer, don't turn it down, because it meant out of all the people they knew, they must have knew you pretty well for you to be one of 6 men to carry the casket. When my ancestor carried Lincoln, he carried the king of a nation. When my dad's friend carried Elvis at that moment, he carried the king of rock and roll. And men listening today, whether you've been saved for 30 years or maybe just 30 days, or you're 30 seconds away from giving your life to Jesus, I'm telling you, the winning team is with Jesus. And when you walk out of your house every morning, I would encourage you with this challenge. Say a little prayer that God would protect your family and use you as an ambassador of hope that day. And you are a walking billboard. So when you leave that house, you're not only representing God, but you don't carry the king of a nation. You don't carry the king of rock and roll. Greater, you carry the king of all kings. Represent him well. It's an honor to be a representative of Congress, but you're a representative of Christ. I was the youngest in 40 years to work on the floor of the United States Senate. I worked for all 100 U.S. senators, half the day with the Republicans, the other half with the Democrats. Out of 5,500, only 3 were appointed on the floor, and I was one of them. But being a senator is one thing, but honoring the Savior is everything. I got an award of all places at the United Nations. I'm not bragging about that because that is a dark place. But once again, the people that think like Jesus the least probably could use him the most. And I was doing my best to chase hell with a water gun, just saying 3 things. God loves you. And men, he didn't only die to save you. In Florida, he's dying to use you and be his hands and feet this week.
And that's good. Well, Frank, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your background and your stories. Yeah. Gentlemen, that's the challenge. Pray for your families, pray for your community, and then get to it. God's got a calling for each one of you on your life. I don't know what that is. Only he is going to be able to reveal that to you. But if you're not listening in the little things, he can't reveal the big things. Gentlemen, we'll see you again next week, here again on Drive Time. Have a great week, guys.